dream of you. Dream of you. Florida Keys. There's a place called Kokomo. That's where you wanna go to get away from it all. Bodies in the sand, tropical drink melting in your head. We'll be falling in love to the rhythm of a steel drum band. Down in Kokomo, Jamaica, ooh, I wanna take you home. Bermuda, Bahama, come on, pretty mama, Key Largo, Montego. Hey, we wanna take you down to Kokomo. We'll get there fast and then we'll take it slow. That's where we wanna go. Way down in Kokomo. We'll put out to sea and we'll perfect our chemistry. By and by we'll defy a little bit of gravity. Afternoon delight, cocktails and moonlit nights. That dreamy look in your eye gives me a tropical contact high. Down in Kokomo, Jamaica, ooh, I wanna take you home. Bermuda, Bahama, come on, pretty mama, Key Largo, Montego. Hey, we wanna take you down to Kokomo. We'll get there fast and then we'll take it slow. That's where we wanna go. Way down to Kokomo. Aruba, Jamaica, ooh, I wanna take you home. Bermuda, Bahama, come on, pretty mama, Key Largo, Montego. Baby, wanna take you down to Kokomo.
And now, to entertain you tonight with a gala discussion and a recording session, Matt and Greg and the fabulous Beach Boys talk.
Beach Boys, we're talking Beach Boys, Beach Boys, we're talking Beach Boys, Beach Boys, yeah, we're talking Beach Boys, oh yeah. What's up, brother Matt? We are back, everybody. Welcome to another episode.
Hello.
A live episode, meaning it's live happening right now. Look at all our friends typing live right over here. You can join in the chat too. All you got to do, type in the comments. Shows up on the screen. Welcome to another episode of Beach Boys Talk. This is a live stream show dedicated to our favorite band, brother Matt, the Beach Boys.
That's right. We are brothers who love the Beach Boys. We don't
are.
claim to be experts,
We're not-
historians,
or scholars.
musicologists.
We need
we're
to add
scholars.
scholars in there.
But
We're not scholars.
as we continue to do the show, we learn more from all our friends out there,
We do.
and we learn a lot from the stories we hear from some of our guests we have on. And
Yes.
we have an incredible guest tonight, Debbie Shair, who played in the band Heart for 10 years, keyboard player, and then played with Brian Wilson's band, and is currently playing with Al Jardine's band. So we're really blessed to have her come on the show tonight. We'll also have a check-in with our man Robby Robinson of the Four Seasons to hear what he's been up to. And we stream his show on Monday nights now, Jam and Job. And last night he had on a great show Tony Orlando. There's another guy, like a doo-wop guy, had on. He had so many people on.
Hey girl, what you doing down there? Staring alone every night while I live right above you. That's Tony Orlando, isn't it?
I don't think so.
I can get by. That's totally Tony
Knock
Orlando.
3 times, maybe, I don't know. But
my
the point,
sweetness, knock 3 times
the point
on
is,
the
he's got a
ceiling.
lot of great musicians on there. We had on the drummer from Ambrosia, who had a cool Beach Boys story we got to hear, and we
That was
got
cool.
to talk to him.
Yes.
So anyway, it's going to be a good night, and we will discuss I don't know if we should call it famous or infamous right now, but the Beach Boys documentary.
What do you mean? It's
We have
great.
all that tonight. But the big thing is Debbie Shair. But thanks again, everybody, for being here tonight. We've got a good crowd.
Thank you so much. We want to thank all of our Facebook groups that allow us to post. We want to thank all of our friends that comment and like our content. It goes a long way, you guys. We really appreciate it. Matt,
before we do anything, I think for the next, in honor of the great Capital Joe winners,
Yes.
we need to sing happy birthday. But how do we sing happy birthday in all caps?
I think you have to sing it in all caps by singing it with the ding dong
Okay,
song.
here we go.
I mean the ding dang song.
Okay. Everybody, everybody needs to say happy birthday to our buddy Joe winners, but everybody do it in all caps. Wait, I think everything is already all caps.
Yeah, it is.
All right. How about some happy birthdays to Joe? Joe's a longtime Beach Boy talker, and we love you, Joe. So let's sing
been
happy
real
birthday
supportive
to
of
Joe.
our show. We appreciate you, Joe.
Is that too loud? It might be too loud. Happy birthday to you, Joe! Happy birthday to you, Joe! Happy birthday, dear Joe. Happy birthday to you.
And many more.
And many more. What did you think? At this moment.
Hey, Spud. Spud's here tonight. All right. Haven't seen in a while, man.
Tears in your eyes. He's got happy birthday, Joe. Actually,
Yeah.
we're gonna talk with Robby. He's got him coming on next week as well. He sang at this moment.
Yeah.
Dang it.
Billy Vera, is that right?
Billy Vera, that's right. Billy
Yeah.
Vera is going to be on a show next week, so pretty excited. But happy birthday, Joe! Thanks for all your support, buddy. We love you.
Yeah, man, we love you.
We hope you had a good one, and you're awesome. Just don't forget that we love you. So we got a lot to talk about. We got a lot to get to, Matt. So for the next 10 minutes, should we get into the Beach Boys documentary? Ooh, I also want to thank Annie Wilson, the wonderful Annie Wilson for Cargis, for sending me her private pass to the premiere of the Beach Boys documentary. So she's so sweet, man.
I got a message on my phone that I got a package in the package room. So I think I got something coming.
Go get it, man.
I'm gonna get it right now.
Yeah, go get it.
It'd be dead air for a long time.
As many of you know, Matt and I were invited to the premiere by Brian himself. He actually called Matt, and we had to decline because our schedules are just too. Matt, I think we're just too busy. Really.
I said, sorry, bro, I'm too busy. That's what I said.
Matt literally said to Brian, sorry, bro, we're too busy. But you know what? It's just sometimes you make room for things, and sometimes you're just too busy, and that we were too busy. So, but we want to thank all the Beach Boys folks for inviting us. But we could not make it. We were just too busy with things. But no, huge thank you to Annie. This is really thoughtful. And Matt, she also sent a promo poster from the premiere, which I am going to hang up. I think it's very, very cool. So,
oh, sweet.
Yeah. Man, she's the best. She's the greatest. We love her so much. So
yeah, she is.
Super friend of the show. Annie
it's a cool
Wilson,
picture on there too, on that poster.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. But let's do this. I want to start with Matt's thoughts. I'll give my thoughts, and then I want to go through the chat and see what the chat thinks. But Matt, your 1 minute, your 60-second or 2-minute breakdown of what you thought about the documentary. Go.
So everybody, first of all, I see some in the chat. We were joking. Brian Wilson did not invite us to
remember that whole part at the beginning? We're not experts or historians. We're nothing.
Guess we're not comedians either, but it was a joke.
We're not very funny. It was not a joke. We were not invited. Shocker.
Are you kidding? If I really got invited, I would. You'd see pictures of that everywhere.
I was going to say that, and you might quit school. Just quit teaching altogether.
I know. No, he did not. But okay, so thoughts on the documentary. I've watched it twice now. Once I heard that it was going to be under 2 hours, I kind of knew what to expect. I didn't think it was going to be a real deep dive. So what I'm going to say is, for what it was, I thought it was excellent. I thought it was brilliant. There was a lot of video footage I'd never seen before, especially with David Marks and Dennis, like early stuff. There were some pictures, some real small teaser snippets of some concerts and things like that.
Yeah.
I liked the way it flowed. I liked how they told the story. I do want to say one of the highlights for me was how David Marks got to tell his story. It kind of to piece it all together, where he came, he was on the first 4 albums, he quit.
Yeah.
Al came back before that when Brian was Brian didn't want to tour as early as 1963.
Yeah.
There is some people that are complaining that they didn't go after Smile. They kind of rushed through it all. And that's true. But I feel like, to me, this was not as much a documentary as it really was like a tribute to the Beach Boys, if that makes sense. And kind of a love letter to Brian Wilson, or like a thank you letter, is kind of how I took it. That scene at the end, be it short as it is, when Brian smiles, that genuine smile he has on his face when he sees the other guys walking towards him at Paradise Cove, was really, really something else, really beautiful. And I choked up in the beginning when Brian talked and he said, "I'm proud of my brothers." But to me, it was obvious that, he probably didn't do a lot to interview. You can hear even when he's talking, it's kind of hard to understand. So it was a little bittersweet that way. But I really thought, as a tribute to the Beach Boys, for a casual fan who clicks on Disney Plus and wants to watch something about the Beach Boys, I definitely think that documentary would get them interested in the band. To me, it's kind of like a Sounds of Summer release, right? That's what the documentary is to me. It's not a deep dive. It wasn't made for like you and me, Greg, where we want to hear all about Smile or 2020. So anyway, overall, I enjoyed it a lot. I recommend it to people. I recommend everybody watch it. And thank you to Frank Marshall and everybody involved for really doing a nice tribute to our favorite band.
Yeah.
And that's the last thing I'll say. I've said this for a while, but I'm glad the Beach Boys are getting their due. I think having a documentary on Disney is a pretty big deal. So I'll take whatever it is just for the fact that they have one. So,
okay. Nice thoughts, Matt. Quick thoughts from me, because I'd really rather hear what the chat has to say, but I liked it. I thought it was great. I thought the production was really nice. The transitions and the way they interlaced some of the music was really, really nice. A little bummed that it was a lot of surface level stuff. They didn't really dig into anything too deep, and nothing super, nothing we haven't seen before in terms of live footage or anything like that. But I don't, like Matt, you kind of nailed it. It's not, I didn't really think it was for us. It's not for the fans that, want to critique every little bit. I think it was more for your casual, hey, I have Disney Plus and I like Surfing USA, or I get around.
Right.
I'd love to learn more about the Beach Boys. In which case, I think they did a nice job. A little. If I had any critique, just from a nerd perspective, a Beach Boy talker perspective, would be, I wish they had portrayed the Smile stuff in a little bit more of a positive light. Yes, it was a difficult time for Brian. It was a difficult time for the band, but they kind of like, the only person to say anything nice about it was kind of Carl, who said it was beautiful music, it was abstract, and he really loved it. But then everybody else was like, it was awful, it was inappropriate music, we shelved it, that kind of thing. Where once again, I really think that a huge pillar of the Beach Boys story is that mythical Smile thing. And I think you can get a lot of new fans if you position that in the right way as a positive, like, this is a cool thing that was never actually released, which I think they did a nice job of in other that. But other than that, I thought it was great.
I did want to address one thing in the chat. Actually, I think I was mistaken when I watched the first time, but the second time I watched, there's definitely some AI in there. With the voices.
Some really weird stuff.
And I thought that was kind of weird. Even Paul McCartney, because one of the quotes they have, Paul McCartney, was from 1990. And, so I don't know it was still them saying it, but the AI voice was a little bit strange.
Yeah.
But I agree with what you're saying. Like I said,
I thought it was great.
And the last thing I'll say is, we never know if they're done with Disney, right? Maybe Icon and Disney have a deal now, right?
That's
Maybe
true.
We'll get some deeper stuff. You never know.
That'd be nice.
But to me, this was like a greatest hits CD. You know what I mean? That's what it was.
Two other things, and then let's go to the chat, Matt.
Yep.
No mention of Billy and no mention of Fred Vale, which I think that's tough for me. You know what I mean? Especially for us as Beach Boy talkers. Fred was our first, he was one of our first big guests. We're a big champion of Fred. And he was such a big part of getting in those early gigs, getting them going. And they kind of glossed over Fred a little bit, which I thought
they
was
also glossed over all the, we talked
they
about
glossed
this.
over a lot of people.
All the band, the side members. And that's one of the reasons I think what kind of our niche on the show has been to talk to some of those folks, because they have really important stories to tell. But again, there might be a part two. You never know. You never know. But for what it was, like I said, I enjoyed it. Is it a definitive documentary of the Beach Boys? No, it's not.
No,
And I know
it's not. It's not.
that's what they
If
say on
you,
the poster. I know, but
I think you, Matt. I think we both really liked it. I think
Yeah.
if you're looking for a really good, in-depth, like really well thought out, great interviews, and it goes really deep into some of that stuff, I think Endless Harmony is still
Endless
your ticket.
Harmony is
It's
the one
still
for
your
that.
ticket.
Yeah.
But if
Yeah.
I think you know what, it's great to watch that with your family, and with
Yeah.
like friends, your significant others, because it doesn't hit as deep as hard. I think it's a little bit more surface level, which maybe that's what they're going for, something a little bit more. Is palatable the right word? Something a little bit easier to devour in one sitting.
Yeah. Well, it's like we talked about when the Sounds of Summer 80 songs came out. I was like, can't we get a concert or something in the vaults? But
Yeah.
that's why I think this documentary was. It's for the casual fan mostly.
Yeah.
I think it's for us too. But I just, again, I don't want to give too much away to people that haven't seen it, but Mike Love and this has been kind of debated a lot on the internet, but I thought Mike Love at the end talking about Brian, I thought that was really touching. I don't think that was a fake moment for him. I think the guy's 83 years old, and you're looking back. I mean, think about it, Greg. They've been in a band for 60 years.
Crazy.
I mean, that's like their whole life,
Yeah, it's insane. It's like uncharted
Yeah.
territory for anybody.
Yeah.
So like we're all
So all your stuff's gonna be out in public. All the stuff you messed up, everything.
Yeah.
You're gonna have
Well,
arguments that are going public. So anyway,
Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
Matt, who I'd love to get in on this conversation?
I think I know.
Let me give you a little hint. There ain't no good in our goodbye.
True love takes a lot of.
Takes a lot of
I remember in the 90s video, Frankie goes, "True love takes," and then he like holds it out and all the
He's
girls
so
start
great.
screaming.
Ladies and gentlemen, how about some hearts and love in the chat? Our honored guest. I still can't believe that we get to talk to this guy on a weekly basis. It is awesome. Long time right-hand man to Frankie Valli, of the Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, and of course, an incredible musician in his own right. He's got a great new single, Lord of Light, out this week, which is fantastic with Andrea. What's Andrea's last name?
How could you forget? It's right there on my thing. Hammond.
Oh.
Dang it. I am so stupid. Everybody, how about some hearts in the chat for Robby? Robby, how are you?
I'm good, guys. It's always good to hang out with you cats.
Oh, man. What an honor.
Even if you have to let's hang on, right?
Well, let's hang on to our last conversation, Robby. We were just talking with the chat. We've all now, I think most of us have gotten a chance to watch the new Beach Boys documentary, and you shared with us on the show last night, which was awesome, by the way, that you have seen the documentary. What do you want to give us your thoughts on what you thought?
Yeah, I was excited to see it because I am a big fan of the Beach Boys, for sure. And couple takeaways. One of the things I really appreciated seeing some of this inside the studio shots, especially Brian in action. Now, I've seen a bunch of those kind of things before, but I really kind of never get tired of them because I'm a studio rat of sorts myself. And so it's always fun to see that. I saw Don Randy, the great keyboard player, who was part of the Wrecking Crew, had a lot of talking points in the
Yes.
show, and that was
Yes, he did.
fascinating
That was
to me.
great.
And by the way, for those of you who do not live in the Los Angeles area, of course, I happen to live in Los Angeles. You may be able to tell. Don Randy owns a jazz club here called the Baked Potato.
Yeah.
Are you guys familiar with all that?
He was on our show. He was our
then you know,
season
yes.
finale guest. He was so great.
Yeah. And that is the longest running jazz club in Los Angeles. It goes back to the 70s, and he still plays, and he rocks. He's a great guy.
He's such a sweetheart. And I mean, talk about that guy has played on everything.
I know. Isn't that wild?
You almost have to play the game of what hasn't he played on.
That's right.
Amen.
It's insane.
Same with Hal
Insane.
Blaine. He drummed on every like big hit in the 60s. It didn't matter what it was,
And that was another thing. He had a lot of airtime too,
Yeah.
and his perspectives were always, and their perspectives, particularly on the genius of Brian Wilson, were very unique, and especially for me as an arranger guy. And he really made the point, and it was poignant. And I think it was the fact that Brian, most arrangers like myself are pretty schooled. I mean, you study harmony theory, all the different things, Shostakovich, Bach,
Mhm.
Beethoven to Bo Diddley and the whole thing. And then but Brian he was still a teenager then. And he really couldn't write it out. So
Yeah.
he didn't know what the rules were,
Right.
but he heard it all in his head.
Yep.
Yeah. Pretty amazing.
You're absolutely right. And Carol Kate is in the documentary. She mentions that. She's
Yeah.
like, we could tell he didn't go to school for any of this stuff, but it was amazing what he would come up with,
Yeah.
And wasn't she the one who made the point that if he had gone to school, maybe he would have been a little more contained in his
Yeah.
in the dimension of his
Right.
music.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. You never
right.
know. You never know. Well, Robby, we've been lucky enough to join Robby for just a little bit on his shows on Monday nights. And if you haven't been able to tune in on Monday nights for Jam and Java with, it's a real similar live stream platform, except it's just much, much better. He's got, last night,
no, it's
Joey
not.
D, and this next coming week, we were just singing a little bit of Billy
Vera, I heard
Billy
you
Vera.
singing that.
Yeah. I'm getting schooled, and that guy's voice is crazy. So you got a lot of things going on. But last night, you premiered a new song called "Lord of Light," and it's
let me correct you if I might. Lord of Life.
or "Lord of Life," excuse me. Yeah,
That's all good.
Beautiful lyrics, beautiful singing, beautiful arranging, beautiful playing. Can you talk a little bit about that, Robby, for us? And I'd love to share it in the chat. I'm going to share the YouTube link.
Fantastic. Yes, it just I have collaborated. When I started the Robby's Records, I've been making music. Let me digress just a second. I've been making music for going on 50 years, I guess you could say. But I've never really
If
put
you're
on
getting
an
ready
artist
to go on
hat, never
Medicare,
really promoted a lot of my own music because I was always kind of working for somebody or making music with somebody or something like that. And so the pandemic changed the world for so many of us. And for me, it allowed me to say, you know what, I'm going to dig into this thing. And I started a thing called Robby's Records. And we just passed over 7 million views on YouTube, which is pretty cool. And our second song that just passed 1 million views is on YouTube. But the song Lord of Life is a song that I wrote a few years ago with Andrea Hammond. I do about 50% of the songs that I write are Christian songs.
Yeah.
And this is obviously a Christian song. And she's an extraordinary talent. I mean, she is like a world-class violinist. She's an extraordinary singer. She's got a lot of great musical dimension. And we wrote that song called Lord of Life. And I'm very proud of it. And it's actually got a lot of cool chords in it, too. It's not just a 3-chord song.
Well, it's really nice because you almost have more of a traditional feel for the first half of the tune, real laid back, and then all of a sudden drums come in and you start to get more of the kind of the contemporary gospel type feel. And once again, I'm saying things I don't really know, but it definitely jumps up a little bit in energy on the second half of it. And it's really lovely. It's a great tune.
Well, I would appreciate anybody who might have any interest. Go to robbysrecords.com and check it out, or go to my YouTube page, and you can see the latest release. And so that's very proud of it.
And
Thank
folks,
you, guys.
I'm putting the link into the YouTube clip, so make sure you check that out and support Robby there because it really is. It's worth a listen. Now, Robby, can you tell us what you got coming up this Monday night? Because we're all going to be there.
Well, I heard you singing the song, so you already gave it away. Billy Vera, Billy and the Beaters was his band. But this guy is he is a very multidimensional talent. Billy Vera, songwriter. He's written many hits for other people. As a matter of fact, one of his co-writers, his first #1 record that he wrote was for Dolly Parton, and his co-writer was L. Russell Brown, Larry Brown. Now, we're going to tie it all together, this package right now, because the song that you were singing earlier was written by Larry Brown, Knocked 3 Times, which was a hit for Tony Orlando. Thank you.
Wow. Wait.
And I digress a little more. By the way, I've also covered that song, Knocked 3 Times. It's on Robby's record, so check it out.
Nice.
This is, folks, that little genius snip of Rob. We need to clip that. That whole little thing he just did is his. You need to watch the show. That's man, it's so fantastic. Robby, you're great, man. We love it.
Oh, I love you guys too.
Well, then you had on you said something about Dave Mason last night, right?
Yes.
And then the Vanilla Fudge, one of the keyboard players was playing with him, right? And they opened for the Beach Boys. It's all like a big circle.
It is strange how many things are connected when you really start to, and especially in your world, you're around a lot of these folks, so you probably see the connections pretty all the time.
You know, this business, and I've said it over and over and over again, is such a small business. And if you've been in it long enough, everybody basically knows everybody. And so I got a video clip. I was just seeing if I could call it up, but Beach Boys were on tour this week, and I called Keith Hubacher, who's the bass player for the Beach Boys, and my buddy who was with us for the Four Seasons. I said, you know that Dave Mason and my buddy Mark Stein from the great band Vanilla Fudge is opening for the Beach Boys this week and for the next few days too, I think. And he said, yeah, everybody's going gaga over him because all musicians are Vanilla Fudge fans of a certain age, I should say. And Mark Stein is the immensely talented keyboard. And I have a feeling Debbie Shair will know who Mark Stein is. By the way, I'm excited to watch the show with Debbie. That's going to be super cool.
Us too.
But Mark Stein was the organist and the lead singer for Vanilla Fudge, but he's touring with Dave Mason this month, and they're opening for the Beach Boys. And there you go. There you go.
It's such a small world.
It is such
man.
And I wanted to tell all the people watching out there one more thing. We talked about it last night, but I thought about you during the documentary when they were talking about the Beatles taking over, and the Beach Boys, fairly or unfairly, they say they're the only ones that withdrew stood the British invasion. But as they show the charts with Beach Boys Fun at 6, number 5 was Dawn by the Four Seasons. So I think the Four Seasons did a great job of hanging around too, So.
Yep.
Four Seasons, Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, no question. We're right there. And I think those are the two bands that really withstood that British invasion more than anybody, the Four Seasons and the Beach Boys. And those two, I mean, you've got the East Coast Four Seasons, you got the West Coast Beach Boys, and then the Midwest loves them both,
Yeah.
That's right.
Speaking of Frankie, what you guys got on deck now? He's still going, right? I mean, what's up next for you guys?
He's just getting started. If he keeps it going like this, he may have a career in this business.
Yeah, I think so.
As a matter of fact, I was in the studio all day with Frankie today.
What?
And we are working because on June 7th is our next weekend run. We've been off for about 5-6 weeks, which is a long time for us. And so he and I work together on we're kind of putting together the list of songs for the next run, and adding in a couple old songs we're thinking of, and we're even talking about. And I'm not going to say too much because I'll be careful. I'll find a horse in my bed. We're even talking about talking about a single release. Wouldn't that be cool? A Frankie Valli single release.
Really?
Wow.
So that just right now, it just put that out in the ethos.
All right. That would be fantastic.
You guys
And
gonna bring
also,
back,
by the way, and I'm floating to Frankie. We got a tour with the Beach Boys. Why don't we put together something with the Beach Boys? That would be the ultimate tour.
If I could just tweak that a little bit, can you say we've got a tour with the Beach Boys and Beach Boys Talk? That would be.
That's going to sell him. If I could just put that one over the top.
That might put him over the top because he obviously knows exactly who we are. So.
Oh, no question. Well, he's met you. He hasn't met Matt yet, though.
Maybe someday. Are you guys going to bring back "Come On Marianne" or any of those songs?
No, we don't have that one yet in the can. That's a hard one. And if you want to talk about "Come On Marianne," and we'll just repackage this whole thing.
This guy.
Larry Brown, who was a songwriting partner with Billy Vera, who's going to be on the show next week. Larry Brown not only wrote "Knock 3 Times," he not for Tony Orlando. He wrote "Tie Yellow Ribbon" for Tony Orlando, but he also wrote "Come On Marianne" for Frankie Valli.
Wow. I really didn't know that. That's amazing.
And he loves to tell everybody, too. He's a guitar player, singer. Let me tell you a story about Larry Brown. By the way, Larry Brown is a great songwriter. He lives 10 minutes from my house in Nashville, my other house. That's my my East Coast house. But Larry Brown wrote the song "Come On Marianne," and he was showing it and Gaudio was in the studio producing, and they were doing it. and the musicians couldn't get the right feel on the opening. Here I am, all that stuff. And then, so he said, Brown, Gaudio said to Brown, you get in the studio, you've got the feel, you just play it. And he said, I can't play this. And then you guys modulate. I can't do it. He says, don't worry, but we'll get that. Just go in there and do it. And he did it. And that's him on the record playing that opening.
No kidding.
Wow.
Oh, man.
That's
Which is an
amazing story.
iconic opening for those of you who know it. But also then a couple years later, a band called The Doors
Yep.
wrote a song called Touch Me. And
Pretty
it starts
similar.
off. It's the exact same song.
Yeah, it pretty much is. Oh.
Man, what a great story.
Man, Robby, we love you. Everybody, please hang out with Matt and I on Monday nights. We obviously have the show Tuesday nights, but on Monday nights, Jam and Java with this guy right here, Robby Robinson. If you loved any of that, which I loved every minute of everything that just happened, you're going to love this show. It's on Monday nights, 10:30 Eastern and 7:30 Pacific, so you don't want to miss it. Robby, we're so grateful for you, man. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you,
Robby.
guys. Have a great show. I look forward to hearing more about from Debbie Shair, too.
Us too.
All right,
Us
Robby.
too.
Thanks, man.
Okay, Robby, we'll see you.
All right, guys. See ya.
Bye-bye.
He's awesome. And it really is true. If you haven't seen his show yet, check it out, because those stories
it's a lot of
and those
fun.
connections and everything, that's what his show's all about,
Yeah.
really. And
And,
a lot of neat guests he has on as well.
and like a lot of the people that we are lucky enough to know through the show, he is like the nicest person on the planet. Like he's just a great human being. And so, you got to support that. You got to support the good ones out there. And he really is. He's really sweet. So Matt, speaking of the good ones, this is a jam-packed show. We got to keep moving here because
Let's
ladies
do
and
it.
gentlemen, we got to welcome on, our wonderful guest this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, how about some hearts and love in the chat? She's clearly in Hawaii right now. Welcome, Debbie Shair. Debbie, thank you so much for joining us. Oh, Debbie, are you mute? You might be muted. Can you double check for me? Man, look at that background. That's pretty great. Okay, we're getting the 1 second. We're getting the 1 second here.
It says it's muted now.
Matt, have you ever been to Hawaii?
Okay.
Matt,
No.
have you been to Hawaii?
Can you hear me now?
There we
Yes.
go.
Hey, this thing, it's like well, you can't see it. Look, it's disappeared, but it's like this stupid thing. I keep stepping on it, and
Oh.
that mutes the audio. Anyway,
Debbie,
hi from
Debbie, I don't know if you-
Waikiki.
I don't know if you can see,
Hello.
but, I have the same problem. So
Hey,
same
there you
issue.
go.
Yes, I step it all the
Yeah.
time. Debbie, what an honor
Thank
to
you so
have you.
much
Thank
for
you so
being
much
here,
for
yeah.
taking the time with us. We've got a million other things you could be doing, but we appreciate you coming on.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. It's nice
Yeah.
to meet you guys.
Great to meet you. We've heard so many wonderful things from all your bandmates, and of course, we just got off the chat with Robby Robinson, who's the music director for Frankie, and he spoke real highly of you, and he's excited to watch the interview as well. So a lot of high praise around you, and I'm not surprised because I've seen you
Oh,
play
jeez.
myself, and you're great. You're awesome. So we're lucky to
Aw.
have you.
Oh, thank you, you guys. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Okay. Debbie, you got to bear with us because we're going to ask you the stupid questions that I'm sure you probably hate answering, but we got to do it because it's tradition here on Beach Boy Talk. Favorite Beach Boy song? Do you have a favorite Beach Boy song?
Oh boy. I mean, that's tough. I'm going to tell you right now that I'm somebody who I'm terrible with decisions. And so it's like if you ask me my favorite movie, it's like, I'm like, well, I'll give you about 10 of them,
Okay.
you know?
Give
So-
us 10. You can give us 10.
That's
You can give us
fair.
5. Yeah.
Oh man. I mean, well, God only knows, of course,
Sure.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's like, I love, Time to Get Alone. I
Oh, that's a good
love,
one, too. Nice pick. Yeah.
Warmth of the Sun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like just the really, like the for me particularly, like the lush ones that,
Yes.
the lush
productions.
production,
Mhm.
yeah, or
Yeah.
ones that are particularly emotional, like I mean, I would just say pet sounds,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Well,
So,
that's
I
a new
wasn't
one.
made for these times.
We've asked a lot of guests that question. Nobody's ever said "Time to Get Alone," but that's a great pick because that song is what you're
Love.
talking about. It's perfect. The production is real lush and beautiful.
It's
So yeah,
beautiful production, and it's so sad that it's post Pet Sounds because it seems like those tend to get a little overlooked. But I think it's right up there arrangement wise. You have the strings in the background.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We were just Matt and I were well here. I don't want to get too into this yet because we have a lot of questions for you, Debbie. But great answers. Next dumb question, and maybe we'll be done with the dumb questions. We don't know. But favorite Beach Boy album, but maybe not. Let's take Pet Sounds out of the equation to maybe make it easier. Maybe.
Oh man. Oh boy.
Yep.
That's
Only the hard hitting
yeah.
questions here on Beach Boys Talk. Debbie.
Yeah. I'm gonna throw you a curveball. I'm gonna
Let's
go with
go.
love. I'm gonna go love you.
All
Oh,
right.
there it is.
Oh. Well, that's not a Beach Boys. That's a Brian Wilson solo album. Is it?
Okay. Well,
No,
yeah.
I'm kidding. That's a great.
Yeah,
That's a great album.
The Night Was So Young and
Yeah.
I'll Bet He's Nice. Those are two of my favorite all-time Beach Boy songs ever, and like Greg said, not a lot of people know about them unless you dig deep because,
Yeah.
1977 Beach Boys is not as famous as early 60s Beach Boys,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. I mean, I'll say like I love Solar System.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, it's and anyway, yeah. It's too bad that they didn't get it. The Brian Wilson band didn't get a chance to do that album live or too many. Well, although they did do like Honking Down the Highway, I think.
They
So-
did, yeah.
They did.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
The Night Was So Young.
Yes.
I
Yes.
saw
Yes.
Brian
Yes.
sing that, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right, because right before COVID, you guys they kind of started doing the album thing, right, with friends.
Yeah.
And so you could kind of maybe see that the natural extension of that would be maybe doing a Love You show or something like that. But what could have been? But well, I guess you never know. It could happen again. Debbie, can you kind of talk us through how did you get started in music? Where you from? Like, tell us how you got started playing keyboard, or was keyboard your original instrument?
Oh, yeah, sure. Oh boy, let me see if I could like condense my life story. That's let's see. Well, I started playing well, neither one of my parents are musicians, but my grandmother was a kindergarten teacher and I grew up in New York and
Okay.
she moved down to Florida as a lot of grandmas in New York do, and
Uh-huh.
she left her piano with us. And so my parents were like, "Oh, we should get the kids lessons."
Yeah.
But I just really took to it. And, I think it just was something that just really sort of came naturally to me, I guess. And so I took lessons from probably like I was about like 5 years old till about 10 years old.
Okay.
And then I stopped because I was actually playing by ear much faster than I read.
Yeah.
And I remember like one time where the teacher sort of busted me because I went past the page because I wasn't even bothering reading
Yeah.
at that point. And then I think I threw like a 10-year-old tantrum and I just stopped taking lessons. And then I just really just picked up things off of the radio and just, or listened to albums or just made up my own things,
Yes.
just like whatever just came to
Yes.
mind at the time. And so I was doing that for a while. And also at the time, my parents happened to have a computer store. I'm from a family of nerds. I'm a big nerd.
All right.
And so we would go with them to conventions and things. And my sister and
Yeah.
I were just bored to tears because, we were just young, walking around, whatever. And
Yeah.
there happened to be at this computer convention, there was this booth that was run by this company called Paya that made, and still, if they're still around, but they were around like probably like about, I don't know, latest like 15 years ago, I think was
Yes.
last time I checked.
Yeah.
But they make kits for like pedals and synthesizer, or I shouldn't say synthesizer, I should say keyboards, especially around that time.
Right.
And so they had this particular keyboard that they had made, and it was up for a demo, so anybody walking by could play it. So my sister and I were just completely fascinated because it had a knob, but it was like violin, cello, and it's like it didn't sound like either,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but it still was just really like, wow, you can make different sounds. So we were just like enamored by this thing, and my dad had been an electrical engineer before they had the computer store, so they bought the kit and they brought it home and he built it, and it was called Pious Strings and Things. And I was like about 11 years old. And so I just started getting into keyboards at the time.
Yeah.
So it was just sort of like, it was just something that I just did. And then a couple of years later, just started getting into synthesizers, reading about programming synthesizers, got like my first actual commercial synthesizer.
Oh man,
Um,
you went down the rabbit hole.
I did. I totally did. And like, but during this whole time, I mean, I was just basically like in my room, just playing my keyboard to albums and things.
Yes.
I was just kind of shy, and I didn't really like, I would have loved to have been in a band at the time, but I was just like, oh, who's going to want me in the band? I don't know if I could do this, you know? So, but anyway, it went on from there. And like in college, I ended up with a piano in my dorm room from a fraternity that was going to smash it at a rush party. And
Oh.
I was like, you guys are like a lame fraternity anyway, and nobody's going to join the fraternity if you smash this piano. So can I have the piano? And they gave me the piano.
Oh.
So there's just like, I mean, I'm just pulling out pieces of whatever. But the point is I never really intended to be a professional musician. I just did the things that one does to become a professional musician, and then sort of lucked into it, or I should say lucked into opportunities, and then proved that I could
Sure.
walk the
Wow.
walk, I guess. So
So
that's
what-
sort of it.
So then what would have been the plan if, maybe if those, and I want to hear about those opportunities here in a second, but let's say
Sure.
those opportunities didn't maybe come, what was the career track for you? What was the thought?
I came out to LA with the idea that I was going to be like a music editor or a sound editor for films.
Oh, how cool would that
Oh.
be? Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of neat.
So yeah. And one thing led to another and sideways, and this is what I do.
Yeah.
When you were playing, when you were younger, playing along to the music, what kind of music did you listen to?
Well, let's see. I mean, it was a range. It was a weird range. It was like just, AM radio hits. It was things that my parents had, particularly my mom. My dad wasn't necessarily like my dad liked Gilbert and Sullivan. So,
yeah.
my I grew up in New York, so we had a lot of Broadway things. So,
I see.
So my mom, we had Beatles and Simon and Garfunkel and the Carpenters, and funnily enough, we didn't really have the Beach Boys so much.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, just a really eclectic mix of things. I remember the first time I heard Bohemian Rhapsody when I was a little
yeah.
kid, like the memories of when you were a little kid. I remember the first
Yes.
time I heard Bohemian Rhapsody, and I remember the first time I heard Live and Let Die.
Oh man.
So
That's so
Epic.
funny. Bohemian Rhapsody for me was the first, before any Beach Boys. My older brother Tim brought home Bohemian Rhapsody because it was in a movie. It was
It was in Wayne's World.
Wayne's World.
Yeah.
Oh,
and so he
yeah,
brought
of
a
course.
cassette home from Wayne's World, and I'm sure you had a similar experience, but I was like, what is happening? What is happening
Yeah.
in my world right now? I didn't know you could do this with music, and it was, so I
Yeah.
love that Bohemian Rhapsody is, that's fantastic. Okay. So then tell me about these opportunities then. So how'd you go from there, about to maybe do some film editing, that kind of thing, to you're playing with some of the biggest rock and roll acts ever, right? You're
Yeah.
my hero. It's awesome.
Thanks. Well, oh gosh. Well, let me try to think how I can make this a short, cohesive story. So when I came out to LA, like I said, with the idea that I was going to try to be a sound editor,
Yes.
and I had an opportunity where I was actually interning at Paramount with a supervising sound
Wow.
editor who pretty much said, Debbie, you're young. You don't want to be stuck in like a dark room, like 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. You're young. Go to Italy, go have a life, go do something, and then you can always come back and do this. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh man, maybe she's got a point,
Yeah.
and I was like, well, I was just like trying to think of something to do, and just something really just to sort of occupy my time or whatever. And I was like, well, they got a lot of bands in LA, just all right, I'll just put an ad in the paper and see about joining a band, and see what happens,
Yeah.
Um, and and anyway, so I wound up meeting this guy Todd, who I listened to his songs, and I just could not believe that this guy was just like sitting in his house with nobody knew about this guy. It was absolutely incredible. And that was the band that I was in called Marazane.
Okay.
And but it was he was somebody who was just kind of like went out and did shows or whatever, but mostly just was in his room doing his thing.
Mm-hmm.
And one day I was just like sitting around, and he was reading some magazine or something, and it had quotes from different producers, and I was like, oh, this is a pretty cool quote, and I read him the quote, and it was and he was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Who said that? And I was like, oh, it's a producer named Tony Visconti.
Mm-hmm.
And then he proceeded to tell me that Tony Visconti was like his hero, like his bass hero. It's like produced like all these David Bowie albums and all the T-Rex albums and things. And I know we're getting away from Beach Boys, but
No.
anyway,
That's okay. That's awesome.
So I was like, well, I'm gonna send him your demos, So it took a little while because this was kind of pre-internet. It took a little while to locate him, but I found eventually located his manager, and I sent the cassette. And a couple of weeks later, Todd calls me up and he's like, "Did you just play a really terrible practical joke on me?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Tony Visconti called my house," and my grandma answered. And I was like, "What?" And his grandma, who's just the sweetest person in the world. She was like, "Oh, Tony called," And so we spoke to Tony, and he was like, well, if you were in New York, I would work with you. And it was about that time that they had discovered I had a waterbed in my apartment that I wasn't supposed to have. And it was like, lose the waterbed or lose yourself. And I was like, well, I guess I'm going to go back to New York. And Todd's like, well, I guess I'm going to go to New York too. So we ended up so he wound up moving to New York, and we eventually did some demos with Tony, and they're on our Marazane. We have an EP called Stage One, and they're on that. But that was my first big record. That was my first really real recording experience, was with Tony Visconti, which is quite a thing, I have to say.
Well, yeah, and I love the origin story of that, because you were like, we all need a Debbie in our life here. I mean, like that's like you were being really kind, right? You were doing something for a friend, right? Because I think that's such a cool story. That's great.
I don't know if I was like trying to play matchmaker or what, but I was like, this guy needs to hear your tape.
Yeah.
So,
Debbie, can we play you some
great.
of our crap? Would that be okay?
Yeah.
I mean, it's garbage,
Yeah, sure.
but, no. Oh wow. So you went all the way back to New York then?
That's right. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So, and that was kind of like in like the mid 90s.
Okay.
And then like we did these demos. We were Todd said, "Does it snow a lot in New York? Because he'd never really been out of California." And I said, "Oh, you get like a snowstorm or two in February." And that was the year of 17 snowstorms.
Oh,
And as he was slipping and falling down the hill on his butt, he was cursing me out the whole time.
I bet.
But
I'm missing California.
It's a little bit different.
yeah. And then eventually we just like thought, well, you know what? I was ready to come back out here, and he came back out here, and then we just had a time period where I was working a regular job. Kind of got like an overuse kind of issue that happened. So I didn't play keyboards or do anything for like a couple of years, just till it sort of settled and figured out how to deal with it.
Yeah.
The way I figured out how to deal with it was playing keyboards standing up.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah.
Which is perfect for rock and roll gigs, because that's how you do it.
Exactly. So it was just a side way of dealing with a situation, and that's, so that became sort of my thing. And then we were playing some shows, and just people around town, just started meeting a bunch of different people around town, just started getting involved with pop people
Yeah.
of LA.
Yeah.
That's where we met Darian and Nick
Right.
and Mikey and and all the people associated at the time.
Wow.
And yeah, and then just kind of got a little reputation for the crazy way that I play, I guess. And and then that led to that led to basically a referral for me to sub in Heart. And yeah, which was which
Wait, is that Heart?
yes,
Oh,
it is.
yeah.
Yes, it is.
Oh, Heart is awesome.
Yeah, oh man, it was pretty amazing. And that was originally supposed to be a one tour that I was going to do, and it ended up being 11 years.
Wow.
So
Dang.
so that was
What, explain that, right? I mean, was that you must have just really loved it. They must have just really loved you, right? You must just have been a perfect fit for that gig, right? You're not around for 11 years and not be perfect.
I mean, I'm not going to say yes, I was perfect,
Of course not. You're, yeah.
but but it's like we definitely had a pretty cool thing,
Yeah.
And there was a portion of the show where it was sort of like a semi-acoustic kind of a thing where it was just Ann, Nancy, and myself, and we did Alone was just as a
Oh,
trio.
Wow.
no way. That is the cool. All
Yeah.
right, we're not talking about Beach Boys anymore for right now. Oh, what are they like? I've never seen interviews with them. What are they like? What do they like to work with?
Oh, they're just super cool, really down to earth, super cool, and like just love the same things we do. They love Brian
Oh,
and
fun.
the Beach Boys, and like when growing up, Anne was the local president of the Zombies fan club, and her
That's
thing. And, like there's just all these different things, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's like we would just yeah, just really we would get into like these hoot nanny things where we would play all kinds of music and stuff, and
Oh.
it was just a lot of fun.
Oh,
They
that
were really cool.
must have been really fun. Okay, so you get through Heart.
Wow.
How do you get
Mhm.
now to the Beach Boy connection with Brian and Al and that kind of thing? Because you had met before joining Heart, you had already met Darian and Nick and those guys.
Mhm.
Is that right?
Yes,
Probing like
exactly.
the Wondermans, right?
Proven. Yeah,
Right.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the funny thing is that when I met them, I met them just like sort of too late. They had just stopped playing. So I'd actually not seen Wonderments in concert, but then when they did their album Mind If We Make Love to You, I actually played on stage with them because I played the harp on that. And
That's
so
awesome.
so it was kind of bizarre because it was like the only time I saw them was playing with
Was
them,
playing
which
with
was kind
them.
of
Oh,
yeah, exactly.
that's great.
But yeah, just what had happened was so uh like yeah, so at this point it's like, no, we knew Darian and Nick for a while, and in around 2008 Darian and I started becoming a couple. So,
Okay. Okay.
Oh, nice.
so yeah, so that's like that's a known thing. So
Yeah.
or now or maybe you didn't know,
Well,
but anyway.
Matt and I are not like we say at the beginning of the show, we are not like experts or historians or anything like that, and so we don't necessarily know the ins and outs. But now it's good to know without hearing it from you, and not necessarily. Well, I think maybe or
Sure,
Right.
sure.
that's
But
great.
the reason I bring it up is because I had been around the Brian Wilson band and just known those guys, just like I was always when Hart wasn't touring or something, I would be like particularly if they were in some interesting location and I was like, oh, I have never been to Hong Kong. I will fly to Hong Kong, now. And yeah.
That's great.
That's
And so
awesome. Mhm.
I would always be on the side of the stage with the people on the side of the stage, like with us doing like our specific Surfing USA dance or something like that. And we would usually just trying to make the guys laugh on
Yeah.
stage,
Yeah.
something like that. But I was always there and always just like like it was never a gig that I was ever thinking that I was going to actually be involved in. It's like, and it wasn't because I was like, oh, I'd love to be in that. Oh, no, you can't be in that. It was just like, that was not my place in that was as a, supporter. So,
yeah, understood. Yeah.
but what happened was in 2016, Darian was scoring a TV show for Disney, I think like a cartoon. And what happened was Billy Hinchy was subbing for him.
Oh.
And yeah, you're nodding, so you may have known that. So Billy actually had a heart attack on the road.
Oh, I didn't know that, Matt. No.
I don't think I knew that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, he did. And luckily, he was rushed immediately to a trauma center that specialized in whatever it was that he had. Basically, they saved his life. And it was like the timing, it was like somebody looking out for him at that time,
Wow.
but he couldn't continue the tour, clearly. And they asked Darian if he could come out. And Darian, because he was doing the show, he was in charge of the show. And that's a very, very hectic schedule. He did what he could to make room for a week until they could figure out what to do. And the guys in the band, like I said, we've known each other for years.
Yeah.
They sort of amongst themselves, they needed to find somebody who Brian was comfortable with, knew the show, and coincidentally, Darian and I both were we were both endorsed by Kurzweil, so we both used Kurzweil keyboards. And so they sort of brought it up to Darian and said, would that be all right with you if we asked Debbie? And he was like, yeah, sure. Because Darian would never say, hey, how about Debbie?
Right.
But,
right. Yeah,
because that would just be really tacky.
Yeah.
And so, and that's not how, that's not how one would operate.
Right,
But they asked, and I was like, of course, I mean, anything I could do to help, And so basically I flew out with Darian to Nashville, and they were playing at the Ryman, and went into the dressing room that a keyboard set up. We sort of went through some things with Darian and Gary. And then I listened to the show on in-ear monitors so I could hear Darian's, the mix that Darian was using. And then I flew home, and I had to learn the entire show, including everything in Pet Sounds. It was a Pet Sounds show. I had to learn it in a week.
Dang, no way.
And and it's just like, I made a joke with those guys that it was like, I wouldn't even say that I would shed it. I would say I chipper vacked, it was, and then
sleep at all that week? What did you do? How did you eat? I don't like, that's just a 24-hour, that's a 24/7 job, right?
it was a lot, but I was just determined, and,
that is great.
and just had all of the resources that I could possibly do. I mean, I actually had charts, and I actually had to force myself how to read again a little bit, just to confirm what I was doing.
Right.
But but just kind of, just went over it. I mean, the good thing was that I already knew the entire show in terms of endings, beginnings and endings, and and things that they cut, just because I'd been a spectator for so long.
Right.
And so we did that, and and then the morning I had to leave, Darian flew in from Hartford, Connecticut. Driver took the car to the house. Darian came in. We went over stuff for an hour. I grabbed my bags. I jumped in the same car. I went to the airport, and I flew out to Hartford, and then had to do a show that night. And I was quite nervous.
Debbie, I'm nervous right now hearing this
Yeah,
story.
this is
like,
incredible.
I'm getting anxiety. Like, oh my gosh.
Well, it's a small world too, because Greg and I were at the Ryman shows you mentioned, which is pretty funny. We were there. Yeah, we were there. Yeah.
I was just
The
about
Pet-
to. I was just
Pet
about
Sounds,
to ask
yeah,
somebody
we
brought
were
that
there.
up, man.
2016,
Yeah,
the 2016.
2016. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
It was pretty funny, yeah.
So now you know what was happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's crazy.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were in the
So-
front. We were in the front row, weren't we, Matt? Or second
Not
row?
for that one. That was Lucky Old Some. Remember, we went to the Pet Sounds. We were up in the balcony,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
But so you did the show in Hartford, and
Mhm.
you're a
Wow.
professional musician, keyboardist, and all that. Was it difficult to learn that music? Even you're listening to it and all that. It had must tell me about that a little bit.
Well, it's I would say that, it's complicated only because it's very it's very deep music. It's Brian's
Yeah,
music.
Right.
right.
I would say, I don't know how this may come off, but for me, it's almost like once I understood Brian's thing, I don't know how
Mhm.
to say
Yes,
it, but
yes.
it's almost like when I could make sense of what he was doing, it wasn't the other things made sense and they fell into
Right.
place. Not that I didn't make mistakes, you know what I mean?
No,
Because
no,
it's
no.
Yeah.
just, but still,
It's almost like
um,
learning kind of a dialect or a different language kind of thing. And once you kind of figure it out, something maybe clicks and the rest of it falls into place.
exactly.
No,
It's
that's great.
exactly. It's just like sort of learning about the way he wrote bass lines with things, and then you kind
Yeah.
Mhm.
of sort of put that together, if that
Well,
makes sense,
yeah, and I'll go ahead and give you all the credit in the world. Also, you just spent the past 11 years with Heart. Like you're obviously an incredible musician in your own right. So I mean,
Oh yeah,
you
yeah,
know, it's
absolutely.
I think that's great, but
I
not
guess the
surprising.
question more wasn't like, would you have trouble with it, or you kind of explained it. Did you notice a difference in like Brian's music? Because a lot of folks we talk to, they always say that his stuff is different,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But yeah, you kind of explained that once you kind of get into that, then it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that is that like Brian was self-taught, so he
Hmm.
didn't really have the rules that are put on somebody when
Sure.
they're learning
Yeah.
how to play. And and I'm not like comparing myself to Brian. The only comparison that I'm making here is the fact that I kind of had some basic lessons, but then whatever style I naturally do is something that I just do, and I didn't necessarily have rules either. And I
Yes.
think that
Hmm.
that
Yes.
actually helps because it helps me be able to adapt rather than if somebody put the music in front of you. It's like because there's a with Beach Boys that there's a feel. There's every music has its own feel that you kind of
Sure.
have to
Yeah.
get, and that's sort of what makes playing with a live band, you know, when something's really special and it clicks. But a lot of it is that, and that's something you can't really teach people. You
Right.
can
Right.
kind of try to explain it and then just hope that somebody kind of understands that on their own, I guess. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's great. It's a great story. Did you have to sing backups at all?
They basically said to me, like, they didn't make me sing backup unless I wanted to, really
Oh,
wanted to,
nice.
because they were like, they thought that I had enough to worry about
Yeah.
for that. Um,
Little did
and
they know
then,
everything was fine and you could have handled it all, right?
Yeah.
oh yeah, sure. And but then the next year, what happened was in 2017. I was thinking, well, after 2016, I was like, oh my God, that was just like, that was just wild. And the thing is that it's like I hate that to have gotten the gig under the circumstances that I did. Nobody wants to get a gig because somebody had a really, you know,
Right.
serious and unfortunate, terrible incident happen
Yeah.
to them.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
You certainly don't want that. So I would say that it's like I was like, wow, okay. I'm also happy that I was able to just sort of fill in and
Yeah.
make everybody comfortable
Yeah.
and get the job done.
Yeah.
And Brian said some really nice things to me, and I may be, I don't know. I mean, I just remember one time I just said, "Can I give you a hug?" And I gave Brian a hug, and then I was like, "What am I doing?" But I gave Brian, he hugged me back. It
That's
was really
great.
sweet.
That's
Um,
cool.
so, so I was just really, glad that that happened. I was like, "All right, fine." The next year, around the same time, we were sort of, I don't want to say reminiscing, but just sort of, having memories of, oh my God, remember around this time? This is about that time that happened. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
That Darian was about to go out on tour again. Phone rings. Gary Griffin had a situation and he couldn't do the tour.
Oh, wow.
Um, he was okay, but he had a situation with his eye and it had to
Okay.
Mm.
be addressed.
Okay.
and it meant that he couldn't do the tour. And so he said, Debbie, can you fill in? And I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
No way. That's crazy.
So,
Oh,
so the
man.
short version is that I became like the keyboard sub. That was just at that point. And then so we did that tour as well. And
great.
that's so yeah.
It's incredible.
This is the best. Are you okay on time? Are you okay to stay with us for a little bit longer?
Oh, let me take a look here. Probably like about just another 5 minutes. Sorry
got
about
it.
that.
You got
Okay.
it.
That's okay.
You're good. So let's skip ahead now. You're playing with Al.
Hmm.
And
That's right.
How has that been? That's been such a neat iteration for Beach Boy fans because you get to see Bobby, and on some situations you get to see Carney and Wendy. Can you talk a little bit
Ed
about that
Carter,
experience? Yeah. Ed Carter.
Yeah. They're just wonderful. They're just so great. And one of the things that I have to say, one of the reasons that I left Heart was just because I was just really just sort of burnt out on touring. There's a lot that goes on in touring, and
Yeah.
there was some personnel changes behind the scenes, and it just wasn't so fun anymore. I mean, I don't want to, this is probably the first time I ever talked about that. And I don't really do many interviews, by the way. So,
Yeah. Oh, well, we're
but,
on. Yeah.
well,
to be 10 years with anything. I mean, it's
of
it's like
course.
different seasons, right? It's
Exactly. So I kind of sort of had thought to myself that I was just gonna, work in our studio, do studio things, and that I was like, I got to do the touring thing and it was amazing. And, but the only way I would ever do this again is if I love the music or love the people or both,
Mm-hmm.
And when the Brian thing, the emergency happened, I was like, oh, it's both, like
Yeah.
both,
Right.
And then with Al, it was like, it's both,
It's 100%.
100%. It's like, and I'm so honored to be with all of them. I mean, they've known each other, that whole group, that they've known each other their whole lives,
Yeah.
I mean, the
Yeah.
younger ones, I should say, Matt and Carney and Wendy and everything. And,
Yeah.
but Bobby and Ed and, just even the, you know, t- tour manager front of house, Jeff Peters has been with them,
Yeah.
forever. And so it's just absolutely a joy, I just love it.
It's
So
not surprising to us. Matt and I have never been around everyone at the same time, but we've been really blessed. We've been really lucky to have Bobby on the show and Probin and Carney and
Yeah.
Wendy. And individually, they are all so much fun and so kind. Like, I can only imagine that being on stage together and then playing that fun music, that joyful music, has got to be just a great experience. So that's awesome. Well, Debbie,
absolutely.
my brother and I cannot thank you enough for spending time with us, especially when you have the beach right behind you. I mean, why are you
Oh,
not
yes,
surfing right now?
At the beach said, have you noticed it hasn't moved the entire
Your
time?
hand seems to be like disappearing behind the palm
You're at
tree, but I
you're
don't
at
know.
Kokomo, right? You're at
Beach.
Kokomo.
Yeah, but we are so grateful for you spending time with us,
And we
we're-
really do appreciate what you do. I posted a
Yes, you
video
rock.
and
we love you.
before you came on, help me Rhonda, and you do the piano solo in the middle. It's really cool.
Oh,
So I
heck
love
yeah.
love
Thank
watching your videos
you.
too. Yeah.
We hope to see you out there again. So we're so grateful
yeah.
for you.
Y'all have
Yeah.
any tour dates coming up with Al's band?
We have the Endless Summer Band. So not without Carney and Wendy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I forget what the dates are, but you can look on Al's
Okay,
Al's page. But it's
Yeah.
basically it's the Coach House where is it? I want to say San Juan Capistrano, but I don't think that's right.
Mm.
It's somewhere,
Somewhere.
in
Okay.
Southern California,
Get
somewhere in
out,
Southern
to the
California.
Midwest.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah, gotta come out
Yeah.
this way, Debbie. We'd love
to
to
see
love
you.
that.
So awesome.
Oh.
Well, thank you again, and it really does mean a lot. You spending time with us.
Yeah,
Well,
we really appreciate it.
Thank you, and I really love your Pet Sounds giraffe hat. It's
Hey, thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
I,
appreciate it.
I where can I get one?
Oh, I'll send you one. How about that? We'll make sure it gets to you.
You don't have to. Okay.
Well, it
I
makes
love it.
We're all nerds here, so it's I'll see if I can snag you one.
Oh my gosh, that's so
Awesome.
funny. Yes. All right. Well, anyway, you guys, thank you so much for having me. It was really nice to meet you guys, and I hope to meet you in 3D one day.
That would be
Yeah,
fantastic.
it'd be awesome. Thank you a lot for coming on. It was great.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye
Take
bye.
care.
Oh man, she rocks.
That's an amazing story. We always
Dude.
talk about the opportunities people get, and it's a very similar thing, just kind of just get right in there, and do
Yeah.
it. And can you imagine being told you're gonna play Pet Sounds in its
No.
entirety plus all the other hits, and
Nope.
you only have like a week to learn it?
Nope. No. And it's like how I mean, oh man. Yeah, I mean, what would you
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm just like trying to wrap my head around being told you got to be on stage with Brian playing all that music and you have a week to do it, you know.
yeah.
But I think that that speaks to like that group of people that they have there, Darian and
Mm-hmm.
Gary, and like they're all so sweet. I'm sure there was pressure on herself, but I'm gonna guess that it was a great group. If you're gonna get thrown in a position with a bunch of people like that,
Yeah.
I can't imagine any of them weren't anything but supportive and like
Oh,
really
yeah.
easy to work with, you know. So that's
No,
so cool.
and you could tell from her personality, she fits right in, right, with the ones that
She's
we've talked to.
awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, what a joy to be around. And
Yeah.
like I said, when you add the music into that, it's got to be just a blast. So
Yeah.
we got to get out and see Al again.
Yeah.
They got to come out here sometime. That's such a fun
Yeah.
show to watch.
No, that was great. And that was funny too, that she was at the Ryman in the back taking notes and stuff. Isn't that a small world? We were out there cheering.
Yeah,
So.
that is bizarre. That is
Yeah.
bizarre. But
Mhm.
wow, well, we can't thank Debbie enough for joining us tonight. What an awesome perspective. And
That
I
was
mean,
great.
She's kind of a badass before she even started playing with Brian or Al. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, I played with Heart
playing with
for
Heart,
10 years,
like,
11 years. Yeah,
what?
I know.
oh man,
And she said, I got to look that up. If they have, she said they did acoustic with just the three of them singing and playing. That'd be sweet. Right?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty fantastic. Oh man, their voices,
Yeah.
Nancy Wilson. Oh my gosh, they're man, they could sing their butts off. So awesome, man. Well, Matt,
Yeah.
what do you want to do here? You want to stay on for a little bit longer, or you want to
Sure. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say that Robby brought it up, and
Yes.
Debbie said the same thing about Brian didn't really play by the rules, no pun intended, but when he wrote the music, that because he wasn't trained. And so she said once like you said, once you get into that language of how Brian's music works and mine works, it was easier. But I thought that was interesting that she being trained and such a professional keyboardist herself said the same thing that they said on the documentary, that Robby said that Brian just kind of he just went out like this with his music. He's like, I don't care, it doesn't have to go that way, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty neat that she said the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love her. I totally get like her background too. I think that's it's almost like I took lessons for a few years and then just like the ear takes over, and that's such a helpful thing for what she was doing, I think
I was thinking about you when she said that, because you play mostly by, that's how you learn when you were a kid. You could just sit down at the piano and start
I
playing
hate
something,
it. Dude,
Yeah.
I hated reading music. It was the worst. I'm like, why do
Yeah.
I gotta read this? Just play it again. I'll
Right.
Yeah.
But that's a gift. Not everybody has that gift, but
yeah.
So-
Well, Debbie has that gift, and man,
that was fascinating. It really
she's
was.
awesome.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's a really great interview too. She's really fun to talk
Yeah.
to. So
That was
yeah.
great.
Awesome. What'd you guys all think? Everybody have fun on that. She's really sweet. That was fun. So talented. All good stuff. But
Yeah.
oh dang it, we didn't have time to ask her about the documentary.
I know we ran out of time, but that's
I was
okay. I
talking
thought
too much. That's my
everything she
fault.
said was so interesting, the story. And then I didn't know Billy had a heart attack.
You
though.
know
That
what,
was
Matt? After hearing that said a couple times, I'm
Uh-huh.
almost positive Annie said that at some point. I'm almost positive.
Yeah, maybe it was just out of my
I
mind,
think it was out of my mind. Yes, I believe I remember hearing about that now. But man, thank goodness everything was
Yeah.
okay with that. Geez.
Yeah, but you got to be a talented musician to that happens, and then they just call you up and you're like, okay, I'll be there. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Not
yeah,
everybody
and
can do that.
That's not like that's not a situation where you're like you're just a friend. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
just come. No,
No, you got to
there's-
be a good musician.
There's a
yeah.
long list of things you have to be before the friend card is actually
Yep.
eventually played, which
Yep.
in this case it was, and how fortunate that they had somebody like Debbie right there ready to go. But she is a killer musician. So
Mhm.
yeah, she fit right in.
Yeah, no, it was great.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that's awesome. Yeah, love it. Maybe we'll go back a little bit go back to the documentary and maybe hear from the
Yeah, we didn't really
chat.
get to ask the chat about it. So
We didn't.
Yeah, you have any thoughts on the documentary? Throw them in the chat, and we'll talk about them.
Yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts on the documentary. Once again, thank you to Debbie Shair for joining us tonight. We didn't get a chance to hear from the chat, so we've seen a lot of spicy comments on Facebook, Matt. A lot of people really letting loose out there, and
I know,
and really
letting
people know what they think.
Well, we kind of had to rush through it before, but I did want to address that a little bit. Like, I think we get spoiled. We kind of take the deep dive. We go down the rabbit hole with the Beach Boys, and so it's hard to learn new information, right, or see new things and all that. And so I think some of the folks that are saying it was a missed opportunity, it didn't go deep enough, it didn't go deep. To be honest with you, I don't know if going that deep on certain topics would garner like mass appeal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think the documentary was like a starter for people who maybe didn't know all those things about the Beach Boys, because it certainly did give a lot of information. You know what I mean?
I think if you were to compare the documentary to a Beach Boys song, I wouldn't say it's quite Kokomo,
right?
But it's definitely not. It's definitely not. It's definitely not Do You Like Worms, right? It's somewhere.
Yeah, right.
It's definitely the more on the commercial side.
Yeah.
It's not for the hardcore. But let's go to the chat. Ryan on YouTube. Hey Ryan, thanks for joining us tonight. Appreciate it. It stopped and it should have continued all the way up till current. Matt, I was bummed that we didn't get more, because 80s Carl, I think Claire and I agree on this, but 80s Carl is a sight to behold.
Yeah, he's the man.
He is the man in the 80s. Love it. Whitney Ross says, I'm so over the hate towards Mike and the ungrateful comments. At least we got anything at all. Amen, Whitney. That's true. We talked a while back. I don't know if you guys remember on the show, but Matt, we had said, hey, would you rather have a 60th like a anniversary tour or a documentary or a greatest hits? And I think we both agreed that a documentary would be great.
Yeah.
And we got it, so we're I think Whitney's right on. I think being grateful right now.
Yeah, because that's the way I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it as there's a band, their music is still, alive and well, right?
Relevant.
It's
relevant.
And like to even get a documentary on a big, huge platform like that, I'm like, I'm just excited to be a fan.
Yes. And you never know what could come from it too, right? Michael Perry on Facebook. Hey, Mike, thanks for joining us. It was good for the beginner, but at this point, I'd like to see Peter Jackson step in and redo Endless Harmony like he did Let It Be footage, and who knows, it might stumble on new old material. That'd be kind of cool. Yeah, that's definitely our dream, right? The deep dive, getting some cool content.
But I think that still might come. We don't know what's decided between Irving Azoff, Icon, and Disney. There might be more stuff coming. You never know.
Yes. Yep.
But when you have a 60-year career, I mean, it was a little bit more spotty in the 80s and 90s, right? They were essentially a touring band. They did put out a couple albums, but essentially they just toured. The meat and the potatoes of the Beach Boys and most of their top 40 hits and their best music was in the time period the documentary focused on. And I might get little hate for that, but the 70s Beach Boys is not the 60s Beach Boys, so
let's see. Shelly Graham. Hey Shelly on Facebook, hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining us tonight. Shelly says the new documentary had some vintage photographs and video that I had never seen before. By the way, shout out to Ed Roach, who a lot of his footage was in that. I enjoyed hearing Marilyn's thoughts and the Wrecking Crew's comments. I loved hearing more from Marilyn.
I did too.
I think kind of like the constant sane person throughout I don't sorry, that sounded bad. I just mean like
she was very reasonable, unbiased, person, like this is what I saw, because she didn't badmouth anybody.
When you watch her, when she speaks, there's a lot of trust there. You're like, because everybody else was like drugs, rock and roll, all this kind of stuff.
Right.
You kind of feel like, oh, she knew what was going on, kind of thing. Yep. So nice. Thanks, Shelly. Buzz Elliott. Buzz. Hey, Buzz. Was hoping for more from Paradise Cove. The ending was great, but too short. Matt, what did you think about that?
Well, the way they had like another trailer that kind of came out, and that's what it was all about, was the Frank Marshall talking about getting everybody back together at Paradise Cove, and they showed some. So I thought like, Yeah, that I
Yeah.
was expecting a little bit more from that, but I gotta say it was priceless when they show Mike and Al walking on the beach and then they cut to Brian and Brian's got that genuine grin on his
Yeah.
face that you don't see often anymore. That it was really touching, I thought.
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you what, Matt, I actually liked that they didn't show any have any audio or anything, because all of a sudden your imagination kicks in. Like,
Yeah.
oh, what could they be saying? And I think to me that was more exciting than hearing them, because
Yeah.
once again, we already talked about we talk about this all the time, but and this isn't a slight on the Beach Boys that are still with us, but what could they say now that's going to surprise us or do anything other than maybe,
Right.
So it's nice to think about, what is Mike saying to Brian? What are they laughing
Yeah.
about? I think that's a neat way to end it for sure.
Yeah, maybe that had to be private, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Julie Lipson. Hey, Julie said, I heard rumors about Billy having a heart trouble, but never heard it confirmed. Yeah, Julie, I think I do remember Annie saying something, but man, glad he was okay at that point.
Mhm.
Blue Gillis on Facebook. Hey, Blue, thanks for joining us. A great modern family-friendly documentary on the greatest band in the world.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
Boom. That's great. It was not an
Allison. Oh, sorry. Our friend Allison had I can't see it anymore, but essentially what she was saying was there was the part in the documentary where, Mike makes it clear Derek Taylor did the Brian Wilson's A Genius tour. And then Bruce and Mike kind of talk about how, Brian is a genius, but he needed us as much, you know what I mean? As much as we needed him. And I thought that was interesting. I mean, I think that's true. I've said that on the show before,
My only, and I want to get back to Blue's comment here, but my only problem is it's like, it needs to come from somebody, not them. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's like, but Brian needed us. It's like, that needs to come from somebody, like a different authority. Because when Bruce says it, you kind of get the vibe of like, yeah, but you shouldn't have to need to say it. Right. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
I think that other guy kind of said it, but
I know, but
forget
that's the problem. Like this other random guy that I've never heard of before. You know what I mean? Like maybe have Lindsey Buckingham say it or something, or Marilyn or somebody, I don't know. But real quick, Matt, I'm sorry. Can I get back to Blue's comment here real quick?
Yeah.
It was not an anthology. How could any serious fan say anything but rave things about it? It was great. The quality of the video was superb. Just my thoughts. Kids could watch that with no worries. Yeah, Blue, I think that's a great comment.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were done with that comment. I didn't mean to cut you off, but yeah,
It's all good.
I totally agree with that. That's what I think. You can just take it for what it is. I don't,
Yeah.
endless harmonies out there if you want to get deeper stuff. Right.
Yeah.
And it's all there. Yeah.
Yeah. Ryan B on YouTube. Hey, Ryan, thanks for joining us. Hopefully this documentary opens the doors to a Beach Boys anthology series.
Yeah.
If it finds new fans, that's amazing. Amen. Right. I mean,
I think
yeah.
I think it's possible. We don't, like I said, we don't know what Disney and the Beach Boys have up their sleeve, right? We
Yep.
just know about the one thing so far. Yeah.
Kathleen, our friend Kathleen on Facebook. Hey, Kathleen, thanks for joining us. Enjoyable, good for new and future fans. Great comment. Claire Bear over in the UK said, I loved it. Loved the way it was put together. Loved the end. Cried when Darlin started. 80s Carl. I so appreciate the documentary. Claire, you and me both. Claire,
He does look.
you're
He
awesome.
looks really good there too. Like he, you know what I mean? Like Carl, that was like his best era.
Oh, it was. That was
You
just
know
the
what I
beginning of
mean?
the best area. Christian
Yeah.
says watch YouTube. Christian, not
For
sure.
other
Must-
documentaries, he's saying.
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay, great.
Mhm.
Joy says Mike getting choked up and almost tearing was sad. Yeah, that was a really touching moment from Mike. I love that part. I thought that was really
I
great.
did too.
Ryan said it was a bummer that Brian is in the state that he couldn't add his words today. Yeah, tough to see Brian like that, but great to still see him. I think he looked.
And that smile he
things
had on the
considered,
beach, and what he said at the beginning already had me in tears when they cut to him right away, and he just said, "I'm really proud of my brothers," and that's like the
Yeah.
last modern,
Yeah.
Brian Wilson you hear. And
Yeah,
it
Whitney
was
said,
great.
"I love when Brian dropped the F-bomb." I've actually watched that
Oh
whole
yeah.
interview. That's one of my favorite Brian interviews ever. It's actually a great interview. He's really with it, super insightful, has some really nice comments, and he's hilarious in it. But
But he like repeats it and says mess instead. It was really funny.
Yeah,
Like
it's
he
great.
repeated the whole thing.
it's great. Allison, hey Allison, good to see you. I need all the reunion footage for real. Yeah, I'd love to see it all for sure. Claire said, "I wish there had been interviews with Bobby and Ed. I think especially Beach Boy talkers, all of us would have loved to see more of some of those folks
No
on
doubt
there.
about that.
I mean, I do understand the time issues, right? If it's not going to be 4 hours long, you probably do have to start thinking about some cuts. Shira, hey Shira on Facebook, hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining us tonight. The good thing is that it leaves it open for a part 2. Okay, that's a good thought. It was sort of vanilla, and I think if they do part 2, it will give us more insight. Marilyn rocked. Totally. Another thumbs up for Marilyn. So, Capital Joe, Birthday Boy, says the documentary will open doors for a part 2 miniseries reintroducing the Beach Boys to the Taylor Swift generation. Yeah, I'd love that. Claire says, but like I said, that's why we have Beach Boys talk. We get to see and hear Bobby and Fred and others. Amen. That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
Ryan said, "Do you guys think it should have been longer?" I was disappointed when I heard it was an hour and 53 minutes, but after watching it, I was really enthralled and I enjoyed it. It did end, but again, what was the purpose of it? What's the audience, right?
Yeah.
If you're trying to just give the Beach Boys a tribute, introduce them to more people, you don't want to make it 4 hours long.
Yeah.
That would be, to me, if I'm not a diehard fan, I'm not going to watch something that's 4 hours long, about a band. So,
yep. Michael Perry on Facebook says, Giggins said it well. We weren't really meant to see it. That was for them themselves, not for us. Oh, I think they're talking about the
Paradise Cove thing.
Paradise Cove thing. That's an interesting take from Giggins. Thanks, Michael. Carol Ruth Barnes on Facebook. Hey, Carol, how you doing? Thanks for joining us. Documentary was not much for longtime fans who already knew most of it. It would have taken more time to go deeper. I liked it, but it left me wanting more. Yeah, definitely, Carol. I can agree with that. Definitely. Paul Brandel. Hey, Paul. PBS has a ton of footage from the 50th reunion for a special that was never made. I didn't know that. Is that true?
They had one. They did make one called "Doing It Again" that showed on PBS, but it was like an hour long.
That was the title.
Yeah, "Doing It Again," and it was about
Really?
the 50th tour. Yeah,
They probably scrapped it because that was a terrible
I
title.
think it's on YouTube. I think. Yeah.
It's out there,
Yeah, it's out there. Yeah.
and it's called
But-
"Doing It Again."
Yeah.
Of all the names, of all the ways they could doing it again.
Well, like "Do It Again," "Doing It Again."
No, I got that part. I'm just that doesn't make it any better.
Allison said, "As Mike's friend, I'm just so relieved and glad that the doc didn't try to paint him in a bad light." I lost it now, but here's the thing. I don't have any issues. I like the music. I'm sure Mike Love is all right, but he was a little bit different in this documentary because in the Endless Harmony documentary, he does come off like way more defensive, and maybe he feels like he had to be that way. We've talked about that before with not getting the songwriting credits and all those things.
Yeah, are you talking about Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Mike is always just going to be in this position. I don't think it's ever going to end. Because,
Right. But I feel like
because I think a lot of it's true. Like a lot of it is true. Brian, like that's a wave you're never going to be able to fight. It's just Brian wrote the music. Like and I get that he wrote the lyrics. I get it. I believe he did, and I believe he had a huge hand in it. And we all love Mike. But the truth that's the thing I maybe didn't love about the documentary is it's like they spent a pretty good amount of time in the documentary trying to say that Brian, like all the other guys, were just as important. And this is my nerdy Beach Boy take, Matt. I just don't think. I think Brian is just a different beast. I think.
Yeah.
And then the documentary they talk about how it got more democratic and all this stuff. But all the democratic music is the worst music from the albums after Pet Sounds. The best music from the music after Pet Sounds are all Brian tunes.
It's still the stuff that Brian wrote.
Time to Get Alone.
Until I Die.
Like,
whatever.
So it's like I get what they were trying to do, and I get the idea of we all had a hand in this. Our voices blended, all of it. But I didn't like how much they tried to pull away from Brian.
Yeah,
when
because
in reality, I still think he is that guy.
Well, but I feel like it part of it's self-inflicted. Like growing up with the Beach Boys, listening to them, I've never ever thought in my head like, oh, Mike Love's not talented. He's a loser. I always knew he wrote songs with Brian Wilson.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's being defensive and doesn't necessarily have to be all the time. And,
Yeah. I think it's a tough, like I said, I think it's a tough place to be for Mike because he really, really wants the credit that Brian gets. Like, I think I don't know that I'm saying anything crazy to most Beach Boy fans. And if I were Mike, and if I had gotten screwed over by Murray and in some parts screwed over by Brian, whether on purpose or not, in terms of writing credits, I'd probably be spending the rest of my career telling everybody, no, hold on. I wrote this stuff too. So I do get it.
I get
But
it.
it seemed like a weird place to do it on the documentary.
And
there had to be a better way besides Mike saying it.
well, and also at this point, after this long a time, we've heard it before, right? He said the same thing in the Endless Harmony documentary. But I will say, Mike did seem pretty mellow. It's almost like
He's great.
he's 83 now, and looking back
Yeah.
on things. That's why at the end when he kind of shed a tear and he said, "I just want to tell Brian I love him." I
Yeah.
thought that was a really beautiful moment.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing about these guys we have to remember, especially like Carl. You know, they were kids when they started this, and their whole life is in the spotlight. So
Yeah.
you're gonna get the warts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Warts and all. And
especially with fans
you know,
like us that are like, no, this isn't good enough. We want to dig deeper into this. It's like, well,
yeah.
when you dig deeper, you're gonna get a little you're gonna get dirtier, right? The more
Stacy said, "I just wish though when they talk about Dennis that Charles Manson has to be brought up. I love that Alan said it wasn't Dennis's fault." Yeah, I was kind of surprised they went there.
And they
I was
went there for so long. Like it was a big
Yeah.
chunk. If you're working with an hour and 50-minute long documentary,
Yeah,
spending
Your
5
snippets.
minutes on that is a large percentage.
that's a long time. Yeah.
That could have been spent on anything else, right? So
Yep.
it's
But I
interesting
did-
choices.
And I do think it was important though, because I do think that from what we've heard and what we've read,
Yeah.
that did probably haunt Dennis the rest of his life, And
Yeah.
I think it was tough for
That
him.
was a
so,
really-
you know.
That was a nice moment though,
Yep.
where
Yeah.
where Al said it wasn't his fault, and he
Right.
because I don't know that a lot of you don't hear it that way. You know what I mean?
No, and they knew Dennis. They knew his heart. They
Yeah.
knew him, and that's why they can say that,
listen
right?
to Fred talk about Dennis. I mean, he can't
Yep.
talk about Dennis without crying. It's just
That's
so,
right.
Yeah, Matt, I really liked it. I think it's perfect. It is perfect for someone who maybe just wants to get in the Beach Boys and check some things out,
Mhm.
and then maybe your next documentary is Endless Harmony. Give that a check, because that's almost like the next level.
Yep.
level
Or the
deeper.
American Band one.
American Band one's
classic
great too.
Yep.
Yep. So we're lucky
Yep.
to have it, and hopefully maybe it spawns some more Beach Boy material for us.
That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping Disney's got more stuff coming up, like little vignettes or whatever, or just other little things that it's
Yeah.
not going to be over, right? So
Yeah.
Michael said, "I'm not a huge Mike supporter, but he has every reason to be somewhat cross.
Yeah.
His
Oh,
own
yeah.
uncle shut him out of the family business. No one stuck up for him throughout it all those years, but in
That's
the end, he
true.
wants to say it, that it was a group effort and told, yeah, no, I'm just saying I feel like we all know that by now, I guess is what I'm saying. So
Yeah, but it's like,
you
why doesn't that ever like? I get it. It always comes from him though. Like,
Yeah.
Why doesn't Al say something? Why doesn't
I understand what you're saying.
Brian
Yeah.
say something? Why
I
doesn't
mean, Bruce
David-
does, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. We know Bruce does. I mean, yeah. So yeah, it is what it is. But I
And the
agree
other
with
thing
that.
I
agree
wanted
with
to
that.
mention that I thought was really classy that they did for that documentary
Yes.
was they included Blondie Chaplin,
Yeah, it was great to see.
and I thought he was hilarious. I mean, he wasn't
was
in it a
great.
lot, but he was there, and
No.
he got to tell a couple things.
Well, and I hear a lot of comments, or I read a lot of comments on Facebook, like, they only got this much time, and they only got this much time. It is such a short thing,
Yeah,
and trying
Yeah.
to include the whole Beach Boy world in there,
I know.
inevitably, even the main members aren't going to get that much time. Because
I know.
It's just,
I know.
It's so tough. So I would not envy whoever had to edit that thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because you probably
doubt.
started with like 18 hours of
Yeah.
amazing stuff you could have put in there.
It was
But
kind of like Howie Edelson said about the book that's just come out. He's like, we had to stop it at like 1980 because it would have been like 1,000 pages long,
it'd be like this thick.
Yeah, it's the same
Yeah.
thing. So
Yeah.
I understand it.
It's uncharted territory. I think a lot of people forget that. Like, is there another band that's had this type of history for this long?
Yeah,
Like, it's
I mean,
who else is doing this right now? It's uncharted territory. There's probably no
Mhm.
perfect formula to
no.
do it. Even the Beatles, like Get Back, it was fantastic, but that's a very it's like a micro view of a very short period of time.
One
You're-
specific thing.
You're not
Yeah.
trying to fit in 60 years, or in this case, what?
Right.
Even, 20 years into
Right.
into an hour and a half documentary. So I think they did a great job. I thought it was awesome. As a Beach Boy fan, I loved it. Is it
Mhm.
weird that still my favorite part, Matt, the chills I get at the very I love the intro of the whole thing.
Yep.
From the beginning to when the Beach Boy logo starts to come
Yeah.
up,
Yep.
that whole part is masterful. It
It
really is.
was. I said, here we go. Once that happened,
Here
I
we
felt
go.
the same
Exactly.
way. Yep.
You're like, oh, they're gonna do a good job on this. And I did like it.
Steve said, it's sad that there seems to be a real divide in the fan base between the Mike and Brian fans.
Yeah.
I think they are both incredible. We wouldn't have the amazing music we love without both of them. Yeah, and that's the line, Greg. I would say we toe, right? We just like the band, and so I don't
band.
think it matters. I think it's okay to say Brian wrote the music. He's a genius. I think it's okay to say Mike wrote some great lyrics and Brian collaborated with other people. They all play a part in the band, right?
I'll say this though. You know, it like, couldn't they put something out? I don't know what it would be to celebrate Mike's lyrics. Like, couldn't they do something with that?
Yeah.
You know?
I don't know.
I don't know.
But
That's part of the problem is it's so much easier to celebrate the music.
yeah.
But you know, because you can put out all these different versions and all that kind of stuff. But how do you celebrate a lyric writer?
Right.
You know what I mean? Maybe he puts out, you know, a book or so. I don't know what it would be, but it's also a little bit more difficult to celebrate that.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
I don't know.
But anyway, yeah, and that was the other thing I wanted to say. You know, Don Was always shows up on Beach Boy things
Yeah,
and Brian Wilson things.
He's the guy now, I guess.
But one thing he said that I thought was really cool, and this is kind of the way I feel, is that if you take one of those voices out of that mix, it's not the same, you know. And I think that's why they all play a part. That blend that the Beach Boys had is really unique, and you don't get it with one of them out, you know.
Agreed.
And that's when he was talking about the importance of all of them. That's it. You might be singing the second part in a stack and just a background vocal, but it doesn't sound the same if you're, you know, if it's not Al or it's not, you know what I mean?
In the documentary, Matt, they did. It's the way they said it, because that sentiment came immediately after everybody says Brian's the genius.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to put those things together. You can say Brian Wilson is a genius. He wrote all of the music with Mike doing lyrics. Also,
right.
You know, but it was like in the documentary, it made it seem like adversarial, where it's like, well, everybody says Brian's a genius, but he's not really, because we're all part of.
No, I get that. I think what Don Was was saying was different. He was just saying that sound. It's unique. It's unique because it's three brothers, a cousin, and a friend. You know who. You know.
Agreed.
But no, I don't think that needed to be said in the documentary. That's all I'm saying. I get why it is, but Brian Wilson's not walking around saying he's a genius, right? It was a moniker given to him.
No.
And when you listen to his music, you can argue that maybe he is, but I think that thing is overblown anyway. It's like, you know, just enjoy the music, you know?
Yeah, agreed. But
I
liked it. It was fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. So, yeah. So, yeah.
Wish we would have gotten a freaking invite somewhere. What the heck, Matt? What do we got to do? We got to add a night.
I know, right?
No.
In Adam Marston's Pet Squares.
How many times did you watch it?
I've watched it twice.
Okay,
I watched it Friday, and then I watched it yesterday.
I had to watch it twice, because the first time through it was
you get a little distracted about, like, I wanted to comment on all the cool stuff though too. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, I was like,
I
was very.
So the second time I was like, I just need to watch it and, you know, get.
Yeah.
And it to me, it was the second time around more too. Like, I actually felt like it was long enough, believe it or not, in the format they were doing, with all the quick cuts and the quick interviews and the quick everything. So anyway, if you haven't seen it, it's worth it. I know you got to buy a subscription to Disney, whatever, but just get it for that. And it's only like $7 or something. And, you know, but anyway, I enjoyed it. So.
What did you think?
Oh yeah, Glenn Campbell's story was hilarious. He's like, this is so strange.
Yeah.
He said they got clumps of his hair or something. That was funny.
Yeah, that was a good clip. Yeah, I love the Maryland stuff. I thought that was really good. I'm trying to remember what else I liked about it.
I was surprised they didn't have any Wendy or Carney in there, or any of the kids, Matt Jardine, you know, any of those folks that are around now.
That just goes to prove that they just did not have a ton of time to work with.
Yeah.
You know? I really liked Lindsey Buckingham. I loved his input. Fleetwood Mac, obviously, you know, that's somebody that, like, you know, was there, you know, for a lot of that. So,
yeah. Sweet. Well, anyway, this was a really awesome show tonight. Robby was great. Debbie Shair was amazing. I really enjoyed that interview. I can't wait to rewatch it because she had a lot of cool stuff to say. And next week
Debbie was awesome.
we're gonna have another guest on, and sometimes we just have to get them when they'll come on, right? So that's why we're gonna have another one next week, and that's gonna be a fun show too. Yeah, we're gonna have on Philip Bardowell, who played with the Beach Boys, played with Jan and Dean. He also is in a band currently with John Stamos, and they're putting some music out now. So we're excited to talk to him and talk about his musical journey and his experiences and all that. So hopefully you'll tune in for that one too.
If Stamos does want to come along, we're obviously not going to turn him away, right? Yeah.
No, but I mean, he's got a lot of stories. I know that our friend Nolan Carr interviewed him a couple years ago, and it was pretty cool. So I'm looking forward to being able to speak with him.
Matt, if you had to ask John Stamos, you can only ask him one question. What would it be?
Well, I mean, is this an interview about the Beach Boys or about like his life or what? Because I got a lot of Full House questions I'd want to ask, but I mean, do you know what I mean?
Just answer the question, dude. Just answer the question.
I would probably ask him why does he love the Beach Boys so much? Because I would love to hear his answer to that. To go into deep why.
That's pretty good.
That's what I would ask him.
Nice. That's a good one.
Yeah. What about you?
What was it like working with Danny Tanner?
Danny Tanner. Ay. Oh, and I wanted to say one more thing. This is another thing why people are kind of getting on Mike a little bit, is that the song in the closing credits. Did you hang around that long after Darlin'?
Oh no, I didn't.
They played Kokomo in the credits.
Oh, dang it, that was loud. Sorry. Yes.
So some people kind of got mad about that, and I'm like, well, it was one of their biggest songs. Like, who cares?
No. I agree with that criticism. It's out of nowhere. Like it's like you don't even get to 1980 in the documentary, and then all of a sudden they play Kokomo. Like
that's fair, I guess.
It doesn't make any sense. Like. Yeah, no, that was a little weird. I do remember being like, why are they playing this right now? That's really strange. They might as well play Make It Big at the beginning. Like, why would you?
If Mike did anything on there, that was it. He made sure Kokomo was in the credits.
Make it big.
Well, plus they skipped over the brilliance of MIU. So I mean, you can't go to Kokomo.
Make it bigger than life. See your names shining bright up on the bright lights.
Yeah.
Have a little faith in yourself. Oh, you know you're gonna make it big if you want to. If you want. That's an awesome tune, man.
Yeah, it is.
East meets West. Different drummers side by side went east. All right, Brother Bear.
Good show, man.
Good show. Hey, thank you everybody for joining us again tonight. We had a lot of fun. A lot of fun tonight. It's such an honor again to speak with Robby Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
We can't say it enough. I got to pinch myself every time I get to talk with that guy, but he's such a legend in his own right. Great musician. He's been with Frankie for 40 years. And we're lucky enough to
and he's the real deal. He's genuine guy.
Genuine
nice
person.
guy.
He's real sweet. So if you guys could help us out, please support him. Lord of Life is a new release he just put out. It's a really beautiful song.
Go to Robby's Records.
And Robby's Records on YouTube. And then also on Monday nights on Beach Boys Talk, we are streaming his show. So if you're bored on Monday or looking for something to do, we can tell you his show is really fantastic. He's going to have Billy Vera on this coming week.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're excited to support him because you got to support the really great, kind people in our world today. And then two, huge thank you. Speaking of kind individual and someone who maybe one of my favorite interviews we've ever done. Thank you, Debbie Shair, for joining us tonight. What a treasure. We're so lucky to have her. She's so talented.
It was awesome. Yeah.
And really a fun interview. She's really, really, really fun to talk to.
Yeah, no doubt. And for all you Beach Boy talkers out there, please share our show.
Yes.
Like our videos, subscribe, everything.
We had a
'cause-
lot, Matt. We had a lot of people on tonight, man.
Yeah, we did, and
tonight was
we
a really good numbers.
we
tonight.
appreciate the support, and we do it because of you all. I mean,
Yeah.
this was something started like, remember one night with like 2 people on, and it's grown into
Oh, dude, we need to.
something
We should
pretty
have
amazing.
Matt. We should do at some sort of landmark before this is all over. We should pull up our very first episode and do like a commentary on it. You and me, we'll be on the side. We can all laugh at us and how terrible it was. I wonder who was on those original streams. Claire, were you on the first stream? I'm trying to remember who would have been on the first
I think
stream
Dirk
ever.
was, but
Definitely Dr. Beach Boy, but he doesn't join us anymore.
no, not much. But
Hey, we love y'all so much. Y'all
Yep.
are awesome.
y'all are great. We appreciate what you do, and thank you. By the way, I love all the posts and the groups. Joe's out there doing it. Stacy, Julie, everybody who
Yes,
has
you're
the
also
groups
kind
and
for
post things.
sharing. Yes, if you always help us out by, of course, sharing our content,
Mm-hmm.
sharing the stream when we come on. I always forget to ask, but it's all.
And
very,
I was
very
gonna
great.
say for Bobby,
Yes.
get that baby blue.
Let's play it.
It's really
Let's play
important
it.
to
Let's
Bobby,
play it on
so-
our way out here.
All right.
Okay.
See you next week, everybody.
Good night.
Lie alone in bed at night. Feel the pull of a lonely day. Thoughts like music start to play. I wonder where you were today, baby blue, baby blue, baby blue eyes. I dream of you. Late at night, the whole world's sleeping. I dream of you. Close to you, I feel your sweet heart beating. I dream of you. Late at night, honey, late at night. Dream of you. Dream of you. Baby, baby blue, baby blue eyes. I dream of you, baby blue. I hold you in my arms tonight, hold you till morning light, baby blue, baby blue. Ooh, baby blue eyes, I'm loving you, baby blue. Late at night, honey, late at night. Baby blue eyes, I'm loving you.